The biggest fall event for the Ushiromiya family was the family conference in October. But to Jessica, there was another major event that came before that, the school cultural festival. Oh my god, there's a school festival. Hold on. It came before October? We are at a undisclosed point in time before the Ushiromiya family conference. Is this taking place in the middle of June? Are we in the what hold on. Let's see. So Japanese cultural festivals. Okay, there's no set date. So it's not like every spring on February there's a specific festival across the entire nation. So yeah, it's different depending on the region. So if this is before October 1986, this could also be during June. For June 1986. We could be in the middle of June right now. It's often the day the school was founded. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Jessica liked school. To her, it was a place where she could let out the stress she'd built up from the rigid lifestyle she was forced to lead at home. For today's cultural festival, she'd formed a group with her friends, and had announced that they performed some light music on a temporary stage. She's gonna bust out a guitar? She had prepared and practiced for this over and over until today, always anxiously awaiting this day's arrival. Well, to be honest, if she is a lady, she would be probably playing a piano or something. Also, hey Rishabh, thanks for stopping by over on the Twitch side. But there was one thing that worried her. She looked at the clock. There was still a little time, but she felt uneasy. Would that person really come? After taking a single deep breath, her heart jumped when all her friends suddenly started speaking in shrill voices.
嘘！ひなの彼氏超イケてんじゃん！マジすごくない？マジすごくない？リンの彼氏すっごい頭良さそう。あれでド S メガネなの？マジ本当？ダメダメ。うちの旦那ギャル男だし。
God. Also, new backgrounds that I keep forgetting to show off. These are interesting little moments. It's a classroom door with a board right outside of it. This is probably like a university. More than likely. I don't think I know of many high schools in Japan that would have a like a whiteboard just outside of the door. Like, I don't know of many schools that would have this, except for maybe some at a university level for whatever fucking reason. But anyway. It may not be like this for all girls, but at least at Jessica's school, the cultural festival was basically a boyfriend exhibition. Jessica didn't have a boyfriend. She had many friends of the opposite sex, but no special, only one. But Jessica was a little famous around the school, and everyone thought it'd be natural for her to have a fitting partner. Furthermore, her pride had led her to pretend that this was true. She'd somehow managed to keep them fooled until this year, but for various reasons, she hadn't been able to escape this year's cultural festival.
ジェシー、彼氏来た？え？いや、まだ来てねえみてえだぜ。
Hold on, let me just double check. Okay, we're still good. Sorry, it seems like my connection's like cutting off every now and again. I hope it's stable. If not, I'll do something real quick and then we'll keep going.
仕事忙しいのかな？
Yeah, he's still in Okinawa. He hasn't gotten back. He hasn't arrived yet. he's still, a few hours away.
ジェシーの彼氏どんな人なの？
せめてヒントだけでも出してよ。
何系？何系？すっごいよね。社会人なんでしょ？スーツとかで来る？もちろんメガネかけてるよね。キャー！
ねえ、でも本当はいないんだよね。今素直に白状したら私の仲間に入れてあげるって。一緒にこの文化祭を涙で濡らそうよ。いや、いる、本当にいるって。
Oh my god. Look at her face. Normally, Ryukishi characters only have one fang, but she has two. This is a subtle nod to the fact that Jessica's actually a vampire. Just like how there's witches in this world, and there's blood sacrifices and magic, there are also vampires. Jessica's bitter smile was covered with cold sweat. It was starting to seem doubtful whether she really had deceived her sharp-witted friends. Well, they're not your friends if you deceive them. Higurashi taught us that.
はい。なら、彼氏さんの偽物を立てて連れて行くというのはどうでしょうか。
偽物？誰を？そんなのの心当たりねえぜ。
Shannon's ridiculous plan surprised Jessica into hysterics. Even so, it was probably more realistic than the crazy methods running through her head about getting a boyfriend in the big rush before the cultural festival.
例えばですが、カノン君なんてどうでしょう。
Uh-oh.
カノン君？ダメ！ていうか、きっとカノン君文化祭の日は仕事に決まってるぜ。迷惑かけちゃ悪いしさ。
もちろん予定表も確認済みです。カノン君はその日お休みになっています。
こんな時ばっかり容量がいいのな。
I'm sure she would have traded with Kanon anyways, if anything would have happened. If for some reason he didn't have the day off, she was gonna trade spots with him, regardless. Anyway.
じゃなくて、休みならもっと悪いぜ。せっかくの休みを私の見栄のために引っ張り出せないよ。
カノン君は引っ張り出されないといっつも閉じこもってばかりいますので、無理に引っ張り回すくらいでちょうどいいかと思いますよ。
そうなの？
Oh my god. Look at all these new sprites that we're getting of Jessica. She's being so expressive this chapter.
いや、でもカノン君に悪い。
なら晩作つきますね。おとなしく彼氏はいませんと白状なされてはいかがでしょうか。それは肩身の狭い思いをなされるでしょうが、卒業までの短くも長い間を耐え忍ばれるだけでございますし、愛し合う恋人同士にとって独り者のひがみ顔が何にも勝る甘い蜜なのです。
シャノン、私のために本気で悩んでないでしょ。おちょくってるでしょ。
Jessica wrestled about with Shannon, her eyes teary, but Shannon was unfazed, laughing with her usual smile.
はい、私とジョージ様のことを茶化してばかりのお嬢様への仕返しです。
Listening to Shannon's comeback, the likes of which didn't happen even once a year, Jessica hugged her cushion and rolled around on her bed, pretending to faint in agony. She couldn't stand Shannon's smile, which looked so triumphant, but right now, she was the only person Jessica could talk with. She could choke her to death with her cushion later.
いいじゃないですか、お嬢様。文化祭ではありますが、カノン君と一緒に遊びに行くチャンスですよ。
いや、
それはそうだけど。いや。
Jessica buried her head in her favorite pillow to hide the fact that her face had grown bright red, and she grumpily chewed the fingernail on her thumb. It really was a reaction to be appreciated. Shannon and Jessica were of about the same age, of the same sex, and friends. And they were both right in the middle of puberty. They could never talk enough about love. That's why they could talk freely about these topics to each other. So Jessica had heard a lot about how Shannon and George's love was progressing. And Shannon had heard a lot about what type Jessica liked, and what kind of a man she might be interested in. Judging by Jessica's reaction, it'd probably be rude for us to go into precisely what these things were. However, this story won't get anywhere if we just have Jessica rolling around forever, so let's dive in. Jessica had been thinking about Kanon ever since he'd shown up. It was extremely rare for young men to visit Rokenjima, so maybe it was natural for Jessica, a girl in puberty, to develop an interest in Kanon. But if anyone said that, it would destroy the romantic ideals of a maiden's pure heart and love at first sight. Shannon had been with Kanon for a long time at the orphanage, so she'd known him since before they started working. So Jessica had asked persistently about what his hobbies were, what his favorite food was, and what type of girl he liked. Even to Shannon, it was clear that Jessica was infatuated with Kanon.
もうカノン君をデートに連れ出せるいい機会じゃありませんか。
Wouldn't it be?
でもカノン君にだって好きな人とかいるかもしれないし。
Oh, I think OBS keeps shitting the bed. Well, we'll keep going. If it actually crashes, then I'll stop. And we'll have to just do this again tomorrow. But, man, this is just such a pain in the ass.
私なんかの見えっ張りに付き合わせたら気を悪くするぜ。
お嬢様のような素直じゃない方を何でしたっけ、ジョージ様に習いました。そうツンドラとか言うそうですよ。あと十数年かすると流行るんだそうですよ。
え All the rage in a decade? The fuck were tsundora again? They're tsundere, but they are specifically the ones that talk like in a dry voice. You know, instead of being all like, "Oh my god, no," they'll be like, I'm not interested in you. How could I ever like someone like you?" Basically using that tone, if I'm remembering correctly. That's what a tsundora is. Anyway.
へえ、さすがジョージ兄さんだな。未来のトレンドがわかるのかよ。すげえぜ。じゃなくてってことは私ってタイプは時代がずれてるってことじゃねえかよ。もうダメだ。
She is living in the wrong decade. It took several days of wasted efforts, but in the end, Jessica agreed to the plan of having Kanon pretend to be her boyfriend. By the time she's 27, she's gonna be popular. So funny.
はい、お嬢様。お呼びでしょうか。
Uh-oh. Jessica regretted calling out at such a bad time. Kanon always looked sullen, but he had some bad days and some better days. Unfortunately, this reaction was the former.
いや、そのさ、
all that confidence and effort she'd built up practicing in front of a mirror all night was wiped out in about 5 seconds. Jessica turned bright red and hung her head. When she saw that, Kanon sighed. Jessica thought that he was exasperated with her, and her face went pale.
シャノンから聞いています。お嬢様の学校の文化祭へお供するようにというお話ですか。
シャノンナイス。
She like turns around for a split second. Nice! She fucking does a fist bump to herself.
そうなんだけど、スナ、当日の予定はどうかな。
She looks so awkward. I mean, it's cute, but it's also, you know.
シャノンから当日は特にお嬢様にお仕えするよう厳命されております。僕は高校には行ったことがないので分かりませんが、何でも男性の付き人がいないと大変肩身が狭い場だとか、後宮本家令嬢が庶民に劣ることがあってはならないと特に厳命されておりますので。
Oh my god.
シャノンは後でぶっ殺す。
Kudos. Oh my fucking god, dude. Again, that is a very unladylike expression. A normal teenage woman or teenage girl in a young adult in 1986 Japan would never utter that phrase. Like literally no matter what. Like 99.9% of the female population in Japan would never say that phrase out loud to anyone, let alone another man. So that just goes to show, like, again, to remind you that Jessica isn't a quote-unquote refined lady, as her mom wants her to be. But it's also just really funny that Kanon is like, I was given special orders to see to it that the daughter of the Ushinomiya family is in no way inferior to the common people. Holy fuck, what a line. Jessica kept yelling with a strange voice and a broken smile, like a tea kettle filled with boiling water. As Kanon watched this, he sighed again. Kanon wasn't an idiot either. He fully understood what Jessica intended by inviting him. But to be honest, playing along with Jessica's love game seemed like it'd be nothing more than an annoyance to him. However, Shannon had asked him over and over. He was deeply indebted to her, so he couldn't refuse. And that brooch was in his pocket. Could this strange turn of events have been brought about by the magic power residing in this brooch? Ridiculous. But he remembered what Shannon had said to him that day. Could Shannon see something that he couldn't? I don't understand Shannon's feelings. We are furniture. As if we could ever be anything more. It was a truly odd exchange between Jessica, who was still rambling on in a strange voice, and Kanon, who sighed deeply. It's because he cannot see it.
ジェシー、人が来てるよ。
Now, like, if you think about it for like 5 seconds, like, if you were to bring an actual partner to one of these events, that's pretty normal. It's like, imagine if you took your partner to prom or to a ball or to a dance, right? That's about as normal as it can be. But then you have one step removed from that, which is when you bring like your cousin with you, or you bring. Actually, no, like your cousin would probably be about as you know, as close to like one step removed from that interaction. But what if you take it one step further? That's normally when you bring like your mom to a dance like this. And then there's Jessica, who is one step further removed from that. And she brought her servant. She brought her servant to the cultural festival. Because, like, again, like, if you bring your cousin, I mean, they're family, right? They're family. They probably just agreed to go with you. If you bring your mom somehow, that's super embarrassing, but it's your mom. She'll go with you. If you're bringing your servant, this is someone who you're paying to come with you. The only step above that one is bringing a prostitute of some kind with you to the ball or to the dance or to prom or to the festival, to fucking whatever. It's like paying a hooker to play Mario Kart with you.
聞こえてないの？ごめん。
I can't get over this. She looks so awkward. She looks like she wants to tear her fucking hair out. Anyway.
誰？
As my friends all gathered together, they were looking this way with hard to describe expressions, whispering to each other in small voices that weren't small anymore. My attempt to play dumb felt pretty transparent even to me. Did I really just say sorry, who is it? Like I don't know who just showed up? It's useless, my mind's going blank.
嘘、あれジェシの彼氏？
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, he looks so fucking weird. Oh my god. I almost forgot we can do this real quick. He has a fucking Iori's pants from King of Fighters. Hold on. Oh, I don't know if you've ever seen this character, but that dude, he wears like just red dress pants. But there's one very unique thing about his pants, and that's that they're fucking tied at the bottom. Hold on. Here we go. They're or not tied, but they're linked together by lace, basically. Look at this shit. These are Iori's pants, and look at what Kanon is wearing. He's got the same fucking pants on, for the most part. He's got straps on the sides of his pants, and he has them linked together. Yeah, he really does look like Itachi or some shit. This is your hardworking boyfriend, Jesse?
かわいい。本当に彼氏いたんだ。マジ嘘本当？ジェシカの裏切り者。すっごい素敵じゃん。
裏切り者。
年下？年下なんて聞いてないよ。どこどこ？ジェシの彼氏ってどこどこどこ？ショタって本当？
No! Oh no. OBS fucking crashed. Oh my fucking god. God damn it, OBS crashed for a second. I think we're back. Let's see. Yeah, we're back. So you didn't miss anything, but if it crashes again, I will have to stop. I fucking hate this. I fucking hate when OBS crashes. But I don't know if you heard that line. So we're gonna play it again real quick.
嘘、あれジェシの彼氏？
But we're gonna
本当に彼氏いたんだ。マジ嘘本当？ジェシカの裏切り者。
not that one.
すっごい素敵じゃん。
But this one.
年下？年下なんて聞いてないよ。どこどこ？ジェシの彼氏ってどこどこどこ？
Oh wait.
ショタって本当？
There. They called him a shota. Oh god, that's so fucking funny.
ジェシカ、年下？年下なんて聞いてない。どこどこ？ジェシの彼氏ってどこどこ？ショタって本当？
She's really into little kids. Oh my god, what do you mean, really? What do you mean, really? Oh god. What a fucking line, dude.
口がわからなかったもので、遅くなって申し訳ございません。
いや、その格好も似合ってるぜ。
シャノンが普段着では良くないと言って先日一緒に買い物を。似合いませんでしたでしょうか。
そんなことないよ。シャノン、後で2階級特進。
なんだかここは女の人ばかりで居心地が悪いです。
Is it an all-girls school?
だよな、だよな。さ、ここじゃなくてステージの方に行こうぜ。もうすぐ私たちの出番だからさ。さ。
Jessica seemed just as uncomfortable. It looked like being bathed in everyone's interested gazes was hard on her. When he saw Jessica's appearance, Cannon thought he might have made things difficult for her by coming.
なんだか迷惑をおかけしているような気がします。お邪魔だったでしょうか。
そんなことないって。
僕がお邪魔でしたらいつでも言ってくだされば。
Oh my god.
邪魔なんかじゃないよ、カノ君。彼氏感づけだ。
Oh my fucking god, dude. Like if the opening to chapter 1 was like so sweet you were getting cavities, this chapter is gonna leave you like a 1940s pirate, like toothless with scurvy. It's terrible. But I think I see OBS crashing again. Did it crash? Let's see. It did. Okay. It's gonna reconnect. There we go. We'll just wait for it to like show up. All right. So unfortunately, due to again OBS crashing twice back to back, I will need to stop stream. Well, we'll save here and continue tomorrow. But one thing I will mention real quick before we do, if you're watching this on YouTube anyways, it's gonna all be seamless, so it doesn't matter. But what they mentioned a bit ago, they're like, okay, well, he refers to himself, where is it? Yeah, here. He calls himself Boku. So Boku is a way to refer to yourself as a male in Japan, but it's usually used by youthful, younger men. You know, you can just say like Boku wa, and then whatever your name is, right? Like Boku wa so-and-so, Boku wa Kanon, right? I'm canon. But if you want to quote-unquote sound manly, you would say Ore wa Kanon. Like, I'm canon, but it's more manly. But the most normal way to refer to yourself is just with watashi, right? Or, yeah, like, just, watashi wa canon. I'm canon. And that's it. But when you use boku, you sound more youthful. And it's usually used even by, like, adults who look youthful. But canon is, of course, like, 16. So, it's really funny. As for Jessica calling him Kun, I don't really know what they're trying to get at with this, because normally, I guess it's because it's more familial than san, right? Like Kanon-san would be normal, formal. Kun would be more familial, like, you know, you're closer as people, or as people. You're closer to that person, so you refer to them by kun. And then there's also, of course, chan, which is the most common one. That's a more cutesy way of referring to someone. And then, if you're super close, you just call each other by your first name. Instead of it being like kanon-kun, kanon-chan, kanon-san, it would just be kanon, right? But anyway.
僕はどうしていればいいでしょうか、お嬢様。
お嬢って呼ばせてんの？羊系来たこ
れ。Of course they were gonna lose their shit to this. Oh my god. So yeah, of course here he's like, my lady, right? Oh my god. He talks like a butler. Alright, hold on. They go be us shit the bed for a little bit. Fucking hell, dude. Don't do this to me now. I'm never gonna get past chapter 2.
そうですか。わかりました。ジェシカ様。
Oh no.
しつけ済みの様付けだ
Oh my fucking god, dude.
ごめん、カノン君。3秒でいいから、目つぶっててくれるかな。
And also, hey Billy, Feliz Jueves, thanks for stopping by over on the Twitch side.
キスよ、キスするよ。
では、つまります。
By the time Kanon opened his eyes, a horrible tragedy had occurred in the room. Everyone had been driven into the walls, their arms and legs outstretched. Jessica had slipped her brass knuckles back into her pocket before Kanon's eye. She has brass knuckles, like, with her at all times? She can throw Rena punches? Or punches on par with Rena? Holy shit. Where the fuck did she get brass knuckles from?
とにかくステージの方に行こう。私たちの出番はもうすぐだから、しばらく席で待っててよ。私たちは準備あるからさ。この先突き当たりまで行けば仮設舞台があるからわかるぜ。そこで待ってて。
Oh, it's lagging. Hold on. She pushed Kanon's back as he seemed to be having trouble moving himself and chased him out. Even though Kanon was confused by Jessica's attitude and her panicky state, which he'd never seen before, he followed her instructions and headed in the direction she had indicated. After seeing him off with an awkward smile, Jessica slammed the door shut and yelled loudly.
さあ、見たね。見たでしょ。満足した。ざまあねえぜ。
賭けに負けた。
Yeah, I don't know who would win, if Jessica would win or Rena in cute mode at throwing punches, but it's still really funny that they bet on whether or not Jessica would actually bring a boyfriend to this event. Because holy fuck, dude. They did not count on Jessica just using money and paying to win by literally bringing her fucking butler.
絶対ジェシに彼氏なんかいないと思ってたのに。彼氏じゃないんでしょ。使用人へのパワハラでしょ。
They know, Jessica.
ジェシの彼氏素敵だお。
And she's right, it would be abuse. This literally would constitute as abuse.
いやかましいぜ。ほらほら、準備。
When Jessica took the brass knuckles out of her pocket again, everyone energetically returned to their tasks. Kanon went down the corridor Jessica had shown him and ran into a temporary stage set up where the vending machine should have been. He's on stage? It's probably being rented by the hour by some group or club. Hold on. Oh no. The one singing were student groups, but the crowd was still incredibly excited. Disliking that clatter, he leaned against the wall in the darkness by himself. So this is what they call a high school. It sure is noisy. That's what Kenan thought. Then he remembered Jessica just now acting in a way that he'd never seen before. Honestly, she was in such high spirits that alcohol might have been involved. She was so happy she might as well have been drunk. To him, remaining composed and intellectual at all times was the highest virtue. In that sense, it was very hard for Kanon to get used to the atmosphere of a school cultural festival. He had a responsibility to report everything he saw and heard to the master. So, he also had to report about how Jessica had acted without restraint earlier. Hold on. I hear background audio. I don't think that's on my end. Just gonna double check that I don't have any, like... No, I don't have any videos or anything playing like that. That I might have been watching beforehand. I guess it's just literally background audio, like background chatter in-game. So anyway. The master, Klaus, and especially Natsuhi, will probably be angry. If I'm to report it in a way that protects Milady, should I blame it on inappropriate school friends?
なんだよあれ。バカみたいだ。
Kanon thought back on how Jessica had acted earlier and sighed again. You can understand Natsuhi's headache a little now. Come to think of it, Natsuhi-sama, as the president of the PTA, was supposed to go to an informal gathering after attending the ceremony in the gymnasium. She said she wouldn't be able to see Milady's performance, didn't she? That's probably for the best.
人混みは気持ち悪いな。なんだってんだ一体。
Several female students kept glancing at me. It seems they're all whispering the same things Milady's school friend said, and it's truly unpleasant. Come to think of it, didn't Shannon warn me? If you walk alone at something like a school festival, you'd better watch out because lots of strange people will come to talk to you. Or come and talk to you.
お一人ですか?
Just as expected, a group of girls I'd never met started talking to me. Their stares started to make my back tingle. Didn't she tell me some magic words I could chase them off in times like this?
すみません。連れがいますので。
そうですか。ごめんなさい。
It worked. Instant reaction. Well, that got rid of them, but it hasn't really changed the number of people staring at me.
違うよ。あの子だよ、ジェシーの彼氏。嘘？あの子が？信じらんないよね。絶対にエアだと思ってたよ。可愛いじゃん。年下？いいなぁ。
There's no way I'll ever come to a place like this again. Kanon sighed for about the zillionth time that day. When he did, the lights changed and the standing audience started cheering. He looked around and realized that there was suddenly a large group of people there. And unlike earlier, they were mostly guys. With this huge crowd, he couldn't even see the stage. Fortunately, there was a fallen beer case nearby, so he tried using that as a footstool. When he did, he realized that there was now a new group on the stage. Their leader is Milady. I hate saying that word out loud. She's changed into stage clothes and she's even holding a guitar. I didn't know she could play. Then again, maybe she can. I've seen her practicing air guitar before. Natsuhi wouldn't approve of any hobbies outside of study. Maybe she was always practicing in secret. Come to think of it, she's been returning really late from school recently, hasn't she? Maybe she's been practicing at school far away from Natsuhi-sama's prying eyes. It really is for the best that Natsuhi didn't come. If she were to get scolded by Natsuhi after putting so many hours of practice in, she'd probably be dejected. I could hear Jessica's forceful voice through the speakers. Jessie-sama? Maybe that's her nickname at school. The students in the audience kept calling out that name. I'm a little offended by that crude name. It's inappropriate for her. Jessica-sama was in high spirits as they kept shouting Jessie-sama. Okay. Everyone here was probably a fan. Her mic performance picked up on that and electrified them even more. Here mic is misspelled. It should just be M-I-C, but it's whatever. It was almost like a music program on TV. At first, he thought this was all silly, but that feeling had changed into appreciation. It was incredible in its own way. Kanon never listened to music on his own free will, but he'd often heard the kind of music the Yoshiromiya family liked. Since it was almost all classical, Kanon had naturally taken a liking to that kind of music. I thought he was gonna mention shit like Led Zeppelin or other boomer music, like Def Leppard. Oh yeah, Klaus is like really into, or Nata, he's really into Poison. She's really into Rat. What other like hair metal bands existed? I never fucking listened to that genre. I was gonna say Raven, but Raven's speed metal, and they're actually really good. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So to Kanon, the song Jessica sang was, how should you say it? Extremely colorful. Oh god, do we actually get a song? In any case, if Natsuhi heard it, she'd probably faint. Yeah, Whitesnake, I almost forgot about Whitesnake. Oh my god. This song? Oh my god. I'm gonna let this play. But everyone looked like they were having a really good time. Some diehard fans who had even brought pen lights sang along and danced crazily with the same movements, almost as though it had been planned ahead. On the stage, Jessica also sang enthusiastically, dripping with sweat. He couldn't find a single element that was appropriate for a daughter of the Yoshiromiya family, but it looked like so much fun. Again, today, behind me, the sound of footsteps. Yashiro-sama is stalking me. Curses, disappearances, sacrifices, torture. Onikakshi, does that make a good snack? Don't say Marisa. So those are the lyrics, right? So yeah, I was not expecting like Tuhu of all things. Like just having Jessica be in fucking like Toho cosplay is fucking insane. What the fuck was this? Now again, I've never played a Tuhu game. I don't care much about Tuhu. I do like shmup, so I should maybe check it out at some point, especially with the that classic collection that just came out of fucking nowhere. Which is crazy because here, let me show it real quick because it's up on Steam. It is the Toho Komakyo New Classic, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. They just like they basically ported, if I'm not mistaken, the first game, and they just redid like the classic art, which is insane. And this shit, it got announced on the same date as the Nintendo Direct that we just had a while back. The thing is, this was not announced in the English Nintendo Direct. It was announced in the Japanese one, which is fucking weird. So if you go back and you watch the Japanese Nintendo Direct, that is completely different from the US one or the Western one, by a little bit, where they did have other games that weren't announced in the English or in the Western announcement. But this was in there, and when I heard of it, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" But anyway, again, I'm not super into Toho. I know a little bit of it. I recognize some of the characters, right? But that's it. All I know is that it's a shmup. I know it's got a Shin Megami Tensei like fan RPG that got made, unless it was made by the actual devs. I don't fucking remember. But yeah, the song itself is they're in Toho cosplay while singing a Toho song that has Higurashi references of all things, which is really funny. So I wasn't expecting that. I have heard that song a lot of times, like in the mid 2000s, but I didn't know it was related to Toho of all things. Yeah, and Steins Gate. Yeah, it was getting a new. It got a new game announced. I think. I completely forgot about that. It was remade from scratch, and the art was meticulously traced by different artists. That is pretty cool. Yeah. Keiichi does make a reference to Toho as well. He makes a reference to a bunch of games that don't exist yet, because it's set in 1983, which is really funny. But anyway, I must not go along with it, but at any rate, she is full of life and looks like she's having a great time. As I watched her enjoying herself, I thought, could this be Yoshinomiya Jessica's true nature? Don't I know better than anyone that during her life on Little Kenjima, she's had no choice but to kill her sense of self? So the time she spends not as the successor to the Yoshinomiya family, but as a single girl called Jessica, living life to the fullest must be very important to her. I've worked close to her, seeing her in all seasons, and thought I knew everything about her. But that was all limited to one side of her. The lady of Little Kenjima. We're furniture. We serve on Little Kenjima and end our lives on Little Kenjima. So I've come to think of Little Kenjima itself as our whole world. As though, like in Ptolemaic theory, the ocean spilled off the end of the world into an abyss. But when I look at her like this, I can see how horribly narrow that outlook is. I still can't go along with the excitement of the crowd, but I feel like I can see something that cannot be seen on Little Kenjima. I'm not sure if this is the unseeable thing Shannon was talking about, but the ocean still doesn't look blue to me. Yeah, Shannon was talking about Toho this whole time. You know, the shrine, the thing inside the shrine was actually a bomb. You know, you Touhou players know what I'm talking about. Now, one thing that is a little weird is that line that he just said. We live on Little Kenjima and die in Little Kenjima. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
今日はジェシカの学校の文化祭だったな。
But servants on Little Kenjima can leave whenever the fuck they want. As far as I know, they can just go. They can leave the island whenever. Some chick was like, fuck Beatrice, she's not real. She got pushed down some stairs and then she just fucking left the island. So why can't Kanon? I'm pretty sure Kanon can leave whenever he wants. He can just, be like, all right, because who the fuck was it? There was someone that was mentioned, I believe, in chapter 1, where they said that this specific servant basically amassed enough money to just move out and live on her own, and that's what she did. So Kanun can do this as well, whenever he wants, but maybe he's just so dejected, or he's very committed to the role of being furniture that he, I don't fucking know, that he just doesn't get it. But anyway, I could be mistaken, but from what I recall, that's how it worked. Yeah, Jessica was cosplaying as a blonde witch. I was expecting a Tsukihime reference, and I was expecting a Akureido cosplay or something, but I got Tuhu instead. I don't know if Tsukihime even existed yet, but it probably did. Anyway.
校長先生はお元気でおられたかね。
ええ、お元気なようでした。そうそう、高宮議員もおいでになっておりました。あなたによろしくと特に言っておりましたよ。
And I mentioned this in almost every fucking game that we've played so far that is in Japanese, that is set in Japan, that has something to do with Japan. Anytime the diet is mentioned, that is in regards to a government building in Japan. It is not a health organization. So when they mention diet, think of like just think of a politician. It's like, that's right, the politician Takamiya was also there. So think of it that way, in case you're lost.
相変わらずご多忙そうかね。
Oh, okay, so Tsukihime did exist.
そのようでした。あの方も精力的な方です。そうそう。あと、榎本会長もおいででしたっけ。
Naturally, the topic of Jessica's cultural festival came up at dinner. School events often became social gatherings for local volunteers. It was the same for the Yoshiromiya family, who were celebrities around here. Natsuyu remembered the name of one VIP after another at the social gathering, telling Kaos the news about them. Can you imagine any of these like VIPs going to the performance and seeing Jessica like just sing this song live? If it were, you know, a joke scene written by Ryukishi, there would probably be a VIP member, and he would be there with his light up pens, and he'd be dancing along and fucking, you know, going nuts and being like, "Oh man, the Yoshiromiya family really is the best." Something along those lines. Jessica didn't really have any interest in that discussion and rudely slurped her pumpkin soup.
お嬢様、あまりお行儀がよろしくないかと。
へいへい、そりゃ悪かったぜ。
ジェシカ、そういう言葉遣いは改めるよういつも言っていますよ。
はい。
Jessica answered discouraged. When he saw that, Kao smiled a little and paused his conversation with Natsuhi.
ジェシカの方はどうだったかね、文化祭は。
ああ、まあ、
見ていましたよ。
え？
よく頑張っていましたね。
Eh? Oh no. She was just scolding her for not speaking in like Keigo or something. And now she's busting out the "I saw your performance"?
まあね。
Jessica's face turned bright red. She probably hadn't imagined that Natsuhi would actually come to see her on stage. She felt a mix of happiness... Uh-oh. Obia shit the bed real quick. Alright, hold on. She probably hadn't imagined that Natsuhi would actually come to see her on stage. She felt a mix of happiness and embarrassment. Actually, she hadn't really wanted her mother to watch, since she didn't want to be told that her music was inappropriate for the Yoshiromiya family. But it certainly didn't make her unhappy to hear a parent say she'd done a good job. After watching her
ジェ
try
シ
her
カもな
best,
かなか落ち着きと貫禄が出てきましたね。
I don't know about that. You're too kind, Nazi.
生徒代表にふさわしい振る舞いでしたよ。
The smile that had been there until a second ago crumbled like sand. Jessica immediately realized that her mother was talking about something different. Jessica was also the school's student president. Holy fuck. She had no interest in doing something so annoying, but her parents had been pushy, so she begrudgingly accepted. Unfortunately, she was popular at school, so she won the election easily. So Natsu was praising her for the student council sponsorship ceremony at the beginning of the cultural festival. Actually, she had just carried that out half-heartedly. After that, she immediately met up with her friends and held a stage rehearsal for the rest of the
人
time.
の上に立ち責任を背負うという経験は必ず将来役に立つ。後宮家の人間としてきっとジェシカを成熟させてくれるだろう。
ただ、挨拶が少し早口でした。内容は及第点でしたが、早い口調はそれを薄れさせます。一呼吸置く癖をつけるといいでしょう。
I've actually had to force myself to do that as well. At least when I stream. I don't know if you go back and watch like my super old VODs from like 3 years ago. I used to speak a lot faster. Because in general, like, I do speak very quickly. My mind races, goes at like 1,000 miles an hour, and sometimes my mouth can't even keep up with me, like, thinking. So I've had to force myself to just speak like this. Because otherwise it'd be like, the experience of standing above everyone and bearing the responsibility will surely prove useful in the future. I'm sure it will help Jessica mature as a member of the Ushiromiya family. But you rushed a little while giving the greeting. You get a pass on content, but the fast pace of your speech lessened the impact. It might help if you develop the habit of pausing every once in a while. Like, that's normally how I read. But if I were to read this shit out like that, you as a viewer would probably, be thrown off whack, and it would not be as enjoyable. So anyway. After she finished eating, Jessica didn't feel like going straight to her room. Her room was basically the place her parents had ordered her to be in. So perhaps for Jessica, instead of returning to her own room, being in an unknown location in his large mansion was a meager form of resistance. Jessica felt that even being in the mansion made it hard to breathe. Fuck. I accidentally skipped ahead. Made it hard to breathe, so she went outside to the rose garden.
まあ、来たところでどうせ後宮家の後継ぎとしてふさわしくないとかなんとか言うんだろうぜ。ならこれでいいんじゃねえかよ。
Jessica laughed at what she was sulking over. She laughed at what kind of words she could possibly have been expecting. That was dumb of me. In the end, I was just acting like an entitled brat. I'm a little exasperated with myself, and it makes me want to laugh.
お嬢様。
カノン君か。驚かすなよ。
Just as she was about to force a laugh, Kanan suddenly started talking to her and she choked.
何？なんかよ。
その。
Jessica's expression became one she always wore when looking at Kanon. But listless Jessica from a second ago was gone. If he had still only known Jessica as the eventual successor to the Yoshiromiya family, as he had until yesterday, he might have mistakenly thought that Jessica's mood had sprung back to normal. But that wasn't right. He now knew a part of her that he couldn't have seen until yesterday. So he understood that there was no way Jessica actually felt the way she appeared.
あ、今日は文化祭。いや、私の見栄に付き合ってくれてありがとうな。助かったぜ。
お歌お上手でした。
そうかよ。照れるぜ。
Even though she had heard the words she most wanted to hear, Jessica acted shyly and couldn't accept them openly.
僕には歌は歌えません。楽器も小学校で習ったハーモニカとリコーダー笛しか知りません。だからお嬢様も同じだろうと決めつけていました。
At the time, Kanun had never felt as though he'd been looking down on Jessica in this way. But all the people he'd seen playing special instruments were on the other side of the brown tubes in the TV. At the very least, he had been under the impression that it'd be impossible for Jessica.
僕は家具だから歌を歌う必要も楽器を扱う必要もないと信じてきました。
But I'm not sure anymore.
カノン君、その家具だからって口癖、使用人の心得ってやつだろ。使用人は生きた家具であれってやつ、源氏さんがよく口にしてるもんな。
心得というわけでは本当に家具ですし。
福音の家の子たちがいろいろじいさまから援助をもらってるってのは知ってるし、それに恩義を感じてるのも知ってるよ。でもだからって家具なんて言い方はあんまりだぜ。私たちは同じ人間じゃないかよ。カノン君は私が歌ってるのを見てどう思った？
とても楽しそうに見えました。
それは多分違うぜ。
え？
楽しそうに見えたんじゃなくて羨ましかったんじゃない？
そんなことは。
You wanted to be up there in cosplay, didn't you? Kanun probably hadn't noticed that emotion himself. Most likely, Kanun saw something he'd never seen before, learned about it for the first time, and felt envy. And to trick himself out of that emotion, he'd call himself furniture over and over.
私は後宮家の跡継ぎだかなんだかだそうで、まあいろいろな面倒がこれからもあると思う。それについては運のない星の下に生まれちまったと諦めるしかないさ。多分カノン君が福音の家で生活しなければならなかったのと同じに、私たち自身にはどうしようもない。生まれる星は選べなかった。
そうかもしれません。
ただ私とカノン君では大きく違うところが一点ある。わかる？
I am furniture, and you are not. He was about to say that, but stopped.
わかりません。
カノン君は自らの運命が自分の全てだと思って諦めた。私はこんな運命じゃ納得できないから自分の思い切りを頑張ろうと思った。だから後宮家のお嬢様をやらなければならない窮屈な自分と、自分の好きなことに精一杯な自分というもう一人を作った。
もう一人の自分。
カノン君は自分のことを家具だからと言い聞かせてきた。そう言い聞かせなきゃならない辛いことがきっとたくさんあったんだと思う。それについては本当に気の毒だと思う。でもそれだけでカノン君の人生を全て決めちゃうなんて、私はそんなの悲しいと思うんだよ。人はさ、自分の中に自分が本当に好きになれるもう一人の自分をいつでも作り出すことができるんだよ。現実逃避とかとは違うぜ。そのもう一人の自分でいるとき、私は最高に生きているって実感できる。だから普段の日常がどんなに窮屈で退屈でも、私はきっと窒息せずに生きていけるってわけ。
自分の中に、自分が本当に好きになれる自分を作る。
To make another me, one that isn't furniture. Through her relationship with George, has Shannon given birth to another self that isn't furniture? And did this other Shannon see something that cannot be seen by furniture?
私さ、カノン君のプライベートって全然知らないぜ。でも、なんだか想像できる。カノン君のプライベートには多分何もない。図星でしょ？
Kanon couldn't reply, but that was the answer enough. He had no concept of a private life. So Kanon would always be Kanon. So furniture would always be furniture.
カノン君のカノンってさ、本名じゃないんでしょ？
In the Fukuin house, new graduates would be given new families and a new life. So they were also given a new name. Wait a minute. New graduates would be given new families and a new life. Now, this either means they got adopted, right? Or when they're old enough to leave, if that makes sense. I don't know much about Japanese orphanages, but from what I recall, in Japan, if you are an orphan, you go to an orphanage, you grow up until you're of legal age, you still attend school, you still live there, and you're normally taught social skills, skills on how to be more independent, and then also like how to seek employment, how to fill out government forms, that sort of deal. For the most part, that's like the average thing. If you, for some reason, are not adopted, that's what happens. And then when you're an adult, they help you move out, they help you find a place and a job, and then you live as an adult. I assume that's what they mean by graduate here. Where as an adult, or when you're older, you can graduate. But the thing is, it might not also apply considering how Kanon has been serving here since he was like 6 or something. He's been serving at the Yoshinomiya family for like 10 years. So ever since he was a literal child. But I thought all the Fukuin House members became Yoshinomiya family staff, like servants. Anyway. In this case, that was Kanon.
確かに、僕のこの名は仮のものかもしれません。
Before, he had thought of himself as Kanon and no one else. But he remembered. There definitely had been another self that wasn't Kanon. That was far, far away, beyond the distant fog of oblivion.
なら、カノン君にもカノン君である時とそうでない時で違う自分がいてもいいはず。使用人である時のカノン君は自らを家具と呼び、厳しく自己を戒めてるかもしれない。でも、カノン君じゃない時の君はもっともっと自由に生きていいと思うんだ。
Those words definitely weren't just lip service. Jessica had also been like this in the past. She had cursed her own birth into an environment different from all of her friends at school. Only she had been in a heavily constricted environment, forced to learn all sorts of things. And she had even been told whom she was and wasn't allowed to play with. It may have been sad, but she'd given up, resigning herself to the fact that she'd been born under that kind of star. But one day, Jessica stopped giving up and surrendering. Stuff like Yoshinomiya family customs and pressure didn't matter. She created a real Jessica inside herself, one who could do what she really wanted to do.
私さ、学校ではジェシってあだ名で呼ばれてる。だからさ、ジェシであるときは自分に思いっきり素直に生きてる。だからこそジェシカであるときも頑張れるんだ。
Look, she's got a new face. She looks all smug. Hmm.
カノン君にもカノンであるときとカノンじゃなくてその本名であるときで違う生き方カノンじゃないとき自分を好きになれる自分になってみてもいいんじゃないかな。
僕がカノンじゃないとき。
He'd once thought of his real name as being completely meaningless. Because of that, he'd thought that Kanon summed up everything about him. And now, Jessica was telling him to create something new, another self that wasn't Kanon.
カノン君、嫌じゃなきゃ教えてよ。本当の名前なんていうの
？He was silent for quite some time. Maybe Kanon's real name had risen to the tip of his tongue. After hesitating for a long time over whether he should say it, in the end, he swallowed it back down.
忘れました。僕の名前など、もうどうでもいいことです。
Those words contained a faint rejection.
僕が本当は何という名前であったとしても、今ここにカノンとしてあることだけが現実です。過去など何の関係もない。作られた家具の材料が元は何という木の幹であったかなんてどうでもいいことと同じです。
だからよせって。家具じゃないんだぞ。君は人間だぜ。
僕は人間じゃない。
Kanon cleared his voice in refusal. It was with a rage that he normally didn't show. Jessica couldn't say anything back and was struck silent.
お嬢様は人間です。だからどんな生き方をしようとも自由で、どんな未来も可能性もある。それはまるで翼を持ち自在に空を舞う鳥のよう。でも僕にはそんなものはないんです。僕がたとえ鳥に見えたとしてもアヒルに過ぎない。
I know I'm not supposed to laugh, but that's a very funny line. Even if I look like a bird, I'd be nothing more than a domestic duck. And then Kanon just quacking. Anyway.
アヒルに翼はあっても飛ぶことはできない。なのに空の夢を語るなんて、そんなのは残酷すぎる。
家具だのアヒルだのなんだってんだよ一体。いや
Jessica had unconsciously gone along with Kanon's forceful manner of speaking. But she realized that she shouldn't fire back and swallowed her words.
私は君のことを何も知らない。生い立ちも知らないし、その苦労も知らない。だから君がどうして自分を家具だなんて言い出すようになったのか想像もつかない。でも知って、君は家具でもアヒルでもない。ちゃんとした人間だぜ。使用人としてのカノン君が家具だと言うならそれでもいいよ。でもならカ シャノン君は家具でない時の人間の時の自分を作ってもいいとは思わない？
そんな可能性を抱けるのはお嬢様が人間だからです。僕はそうじゃない。僕には未来も可能性も見るべき夢もない。だからお嬢様、それ以上残酷なことを言わないでください。
なんでだよ。なんでそんなことを言うんだよ。
お嬢様が僕のことをご自分と同じ人間だと勘違いなされているようだからです。僕とお嬢様は違う存在。それをはっきり申し上げておきたかったのです。シャノンに聞きました。お嬢様は僕のことをお気に入りになられているとか。
え
あ、いや、
僕は人間に限りなく近い姿をしています。だからシャノンのように自分を人間だと錯覚して一時恋愛の真似事をすることもできるかもしれない。でもそれは自分を騙しているに違いない。いえ、お嬢様を騙すことにもなるのです。シャノンとジョージ様も必ず破綻する。その日が訪れることをシャノンだって理解しているだろうに。バカなことを。
バカだってことはないだろ。そりゃジョージ兄さんは立派な人だし、両親の期待も背負ってる。確かに結婚とかになればエヴァおばさんが色々と口出しをしてくるだろうし、まあゼントは多難だと思うぜ。でもな、ジョージ兄さんはそんなのに屈する人じゃねえ。シャノンをジュリエットになんかしねえぜ。きっと幸せにしてくれる。
人は家具と恋などできない。
What a line, though. Shannon's no Juliet. Just remind me real quick. Juliet Capulet was 13 and Romeo was around 17. So to an extent they kind of are Romeo and Juliet, being about 5 or 6 years apart.
お嬢様が家具を愛することができても、僕にお嬢様を愛することができないと、そう申し。
Those words of Cannon's crushed all of Jessica's bittersweet feelings from that day. There was no way her emotions could have predicted that she'd be refused so bluntly. In an instant, she lost the willpower that had led her to try and unravel something stubborn in Cannon's heart. And before she knew it, she was just standing there in shock.
お嬢様が僕を好かれているという気持ちが僕の思い上がりによるものならどうか。
いや、まあそこは否定しねえぜ。
Oh man, what a... Now this face looks really sad.
ありがとうございます。僕を人間だと思ってくれてありがとうございます。そのお気持ちだけで僕は本当に嬉しいです。そしてそれ以上は僕には残酷すぎるから。
いや、もう十分だぜ。悪かったな。
Jessica recklessly scratched at her head and spoke, trying to force her voice to sound bright.
が
Oh no. Oh no, she's crying. It's actually really sad.
いろいろ先走っちゃって迷惑かけたよ。正直ごめん。貴重な休みを丸一日振り回しちゃって、本当にごめん。
いえ、僕も楽しそうなお嬢様が見られて嬉しかったです。
じゃあ今夜はこれで終わりにしようぜ。私も部屋に戻って消灯しないとまた母さんに怒られちまうよ。
そうされた方がよろしいでしょう。おやすみなさいませ、お嬢様。
I'm gonna let the music play for a little bit. Because the cello is really good. It's a very good track. It's really fucking good.
おやすみ。
Kanon saw Jessica trot away with her back to him, looking disheartened. But then, she suddenly broke into a reckless dash and disappeared in the direction of the mansion. As he watched her back for just an instant, Kanon was tormented by the feeling that he just made a huge mistake. But he hadn't made a mistake at all. He'd been forced to refuse her for now. He'd been forced to refuse her now for her sake, while the pain was still at its smallest.
女を泣かせるとは、なかなかやるではないか。お前がそこまで拒絶するとは意外であった。普通に受け答えしていれば、わらわの魔法で二組目の恋人たちが生まれていたものを。
いつからそこに。最低なやつだな。
When he turned around, the witch was suddenly there. But yeah, it is a very crazy situation to be in. I mean, I've been in that position before, quite a lot, where I've had to reject people mainly because I didn't fucking know them, and I had no intention of knowing them. Usually because I was taken at the time, so I would just, you know, let them down gently. Of course, there'd be times where I would just be incredibly direct. More of like, not because I cared about their feelings, it's just like leave me alone, dude. You know, it's one of those situations where when you've rejected someone and they still persist, so you have to like, you know, talk to them with venom in your tongue. It's different. So I get where Kanon's coming from. And I mean, Jessica's liked him for who knows how long, so it's best to cut things now before it gets any more serious. Before he starts getting these illusions of maybe possibly being human and somehow being able to get off this island and no longer be indebted to Kinzo, or I don't know what the fuck's going on through his head, because he can leave whenever the fuck he wants, but I guess not. Maybe I'm misremembering. It looked like she'd been there the whole time, watching the two of them as though enjoying a play.
わらわへの暴言は愉快なる見せ物に免じて特別に許す。男と女のこじれ合いに勝る見せ物は千年を経ても存在せぬな。わらわにとっては何よりも甘美な止められぬ快楽よ。ん
Kanun pulled the butterfly brooch out of his pocket. It was the manifestation of the great magic the witch had bestowed. Without hesitation, Kanun slammed it against the ground and stomped on it.
ほう。わらわの与えたものと知りつつ、それは何を意味するのか。
今、理解した。お前がしているのは恋のキューピッドなんて洒落たものじゃない。お前は、結ばれぬ者たちに恋を見せて、たぶらかして楽しんでいるだけの悪魔だ。
That's an interesting perspective. And I mean, to an extent, he's correct, but he's also incorrect. Because Beatrice didn't, like, choose to be their Cupid, or anything along those lines. Shannon came to her. Well, she appeared before Shannon, and Shannon was, you know, voicing her just strong desires to be with George. And Beatrice was like, I mean, if you want, I'll give you whatever the fuck you want, just do this one favor for me. And then Shannon was like, okay. She even told her, I don't care what you ask me for, you can ask me for all the money in the world, I'll give it to you. Just do this one thing for me and you can have whatever you want. If it's love or whatever, like, I'll give it to you. So she never specifically said that she was gonna play play as a Cupid or something. So, once Shannon got what she wanted after helping Beatrice, she gave her, Shannon gave her brooch to Kannon and was like, here, why don't you hold on to it? Maybe something good will happen to you. So, at this point, Beatrice has done nothing. It's like, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is like the gun argument, where people say that guns kill people. And if you look at that argument, right, like, you could say guns kill people, or it's people that kill people, right? In this situation, it'd be like Beatrice gives Shannon a gun, and it's up to Shannon to fire it. And now, Kannon is mad because the barrel is smoking. And he's like, how dare you, like, force Shannon to pull the trigger, you know? Anyway.
そう思うも自由よ。わらわが力を貸した人間の多くは、お前と同じようなことを口にする。
ほうけるな！お前は、シャノンを憐れんで力を貸したんじゃない。恋に胸を焦がすシャノンの心の隙をついて、自分を封じていた鏡を割らせた。しかもそれだけじゃない。その末路まで想像がついていて、もてあそんでいる。違うか？
家具とはつくづく哀れな存在よ。夢も未来も恋すらもないか。よいよい、身の程はわきまえるに限るぞ。ジェシカの心には、お前が察する通り、淡い恋心があった。そなたはそれにハサミを入れ、刈り取ったつもりでいる。だが、 木は勝手に茂らせたものより枝を間引き剪定したものの方が太い枝をつけるというぞ。シャーノンとジョージもやがては結ばれ得ぬ恋に行き詰まり、わらわ好みの大きな果実を実らせるだろう。
Okay, I think the lines played out by itself without me actually advancing forward, so I'll just read it again. But did you know trees grow thicker branches if you thin out and prune them? A girl who loves furniture, is it? Amusing. How truly amusing. Shannon and George will also eventually reach a stalemate with their unfulfillable love, ripening into the sort of large fruit that I love.
しかし、いかんせんあの二人はうまくいきすぎていて、面白くなくてな。そこへ行くと、お前たちは大いにわらわを楽しませてくれそうだぞ。
The witch laughed. Even though she had known the two could never be together, she had lent magic to bring them together. However, they couldn't escape that fate that prevented them from ever being truly joined. The witch knew that. Even if they were joined, Shannon and George, Kanon and Jessica would eventually break up. They would wander through an endless desert in this hell of love, tormented by an eternal thirst. What a
わらわ
line.
がその力を対価なく貸すことがあるとでも？恋に手は貸そう。その対価は、やがて必ず訪れる二人への過酷な運命の鑑賞料としていただくわけよ。これに勝る見せ物は1000年経っても存在せぬ。金蔵を見るがいい。恋の味を知り、楽園を追放された哀れな老いぼれの末路を。死んでも死にきれぬ、さながら亡者のような生き様を見るがいい。
What a face that she's making. Holy shit. And OBS shat the bed again. Okay. Sadly, I think it would probably be best to stop here. We went for about an hour, or we'll see if this keeps going for a little bit longer. If it does, and we reach a chapter end, then we'll stop there. If not, when we go back inside the mansion, that's when we'll call it. But man, OBS crashing twice sucks so much.
やはりお前は魔女だ。消えて失せろ、この悪魔め。
頼まれずとも消えよう。まだまだわらわには力が戻らぬでな。姿を現し続けるのはまだまだ疲れることよ。そなたら恋人たちに力を授けるのに無理をしすぎたのでな。触媒のブローチなしで力を維持し続けるのは今のわらわには容易ではない。
Cannon grounded his foot even more into the stomped brooch. He felt it break under his foot. Then it evaporated like water, and changed into butterflies that sparkled gold, fluttering out from beneath Cannon's foot.
わらわもこの姿を保ち続けるのがちとしばしそなたの願い通り姿を消そう。満ちぬ潮も月もないように我が魔力も必ず満ちる。そして必ずや訪れよう。わらわが蘇るにふさわしい時が。それが明日のことか、来年のことか、さもなくば100年1000年未来のことかは想像もつかぬ。だが、わらわを楽しませてくれる者たちがおる限り、わらわは必ずや力を得て蘇るであろう。その時までしばし姿を消す。
Okay. So this line that she said was incredibly important. As long as there are those who entertain me, I will surely gain power and revive. Now here, entertain me could be literal, in the sense of those that she enjoys watching and teasing and the like. But it can also be those who believe in me, in my existence. Those who entertain the story of Beatrice. I've talked about this before, I won't go too much into it, but in magic, in esoteric circles, and in the occult, belief is something that's very important. In other words, if you want something to happen, you have to like really fucking believe that it will, according to them. And it is speculated that certain entities that have existed throughout history, or not existed, but that have been talked about throughout history, existed or were around at one point because of these strong beliefs that existed at the time. So, for example, think of, I don't know, any sort of deity that has been very popular at any point in time. And I mean literally any that belonged to a civilization that was large enough to span over the course of continents, or usually, if not continents, countries. Continents still applies to some of them, but I mainly meant countries, where they have a place of worship throughout multiple locations. If a lot of people, say for example, pray to this one thing, then the idea of it actually existing becomes stronger, right? Same thing with Beatrice here. Although it seems like to summon her it's a lot easier. Maybe because of something on the island, maybe because Kinzo believes so fucking much in her that he himself is carrying the entire belief system of the Beatrice Church, or whatever. Anyway.
そなたの手のひらにもはやあざはなく、そなたが望むならば、明日の朝には、わらわの存在など夢か幻のように消し去ることもできよう。忘れ去られることほど、わらわに悲しいことはない。だが、わらわは必ずよみがえる。そして、その日がいつ訪れても後悔することのないよう、自らわらわは必ずや再臨し、この島の真の主として全てを支配する。その時こそ、再び黄金鏡の扉が開かれる。欲深な亡者たちが、必ずやわらわを呼び覚ます。
And here she means Kinzo, obviously.
くどい。早く消え去れ、黄金の魔女。
The witch became a cloud of gold butterflies and scattered away, leaving behind a scornful laugh. The whole area sparkled like a gold blizzard in a snow globe. It was a fleeting, fantastical scene that disappeared in a heartbeat. The witch could no longer be seen. However, Kanon felt like he could still hear that shrill, unpleasant laugh.
ああ、愉快愉快。
え？
なぜに久しぶりの人の世はこうも愉快なのか。
え？
恋に狂え、黄金に狂え。そのどちらにも狂わぬものなど人間にあらず。なるほど。故に家具とは言えたり。家具は人間に奉仕するために生み出される。そしてわらわは退屈なる千年の慰み者として人間を虐げる。そのわらわが家具を支配できぬとは、なんとも愉快な三すくみ。金蔵め、 実に面白いことをしてくれる。かぐめ、わらわを撃てるか試みてみるがいい。今宵まきたる恋の種は2つ。すでにまきたる種と含めてこれで3つ。
One that's already sown that makes 3.
ベアトリーチェ。
Okay, so they mean this one.
なぜに私を一人この苦界に置き去りにしたのか。私は憎。これほどまでに恋焦がれているのに応えようとせぬお前を永遠に憎む。
親方様、それ以上のお酒はお体に障ります。南條先生からもご注意を受けておられるのでは。
黙れ源氏。お前には分からぬ我が嘆き、お前だけは我が苦しみを理解してくれていると、お前だけは我が最古の友人であると信じているのに、なぜに理解できないというのか。おー、ベアトリーチェ。なぜ私だけを置き去りに。
なんだよ、家具って。わけわかんねえよ。
おおいたわしやジェシカ様。寝室から聞こえてくるすすり泣く声に私は事情を知りつつもどうしようもないのでございます。すべては若すぎた二人と近すぎた距離、そして生まれた家柄が遠すぎたゆえの悲劇。私はただただお嬢様のお気持ちを汲み取り、足音を殺して静かに立ち去るのみなのでございます。
Okay. I think unfortunately we will have to stop here. I don't want to risk it. I don't want this shit to crash again in like 20 minutes. So I think we'll go ahead and call it here for today. So let's get ready to swap on over to the ending screen.